Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Q&A, not really Q&A, but it's more of a question. I just checked the email earlier, and we had quite a few questions that arose from, now most of them were not from subscribers, again, it doesn't matter. So we're going to start off, we'll look at the one screen here. So the first question that arises is, what kind of a router would you recommend? Well, actually, that's a very great question. It depends on the size of your house. Depends on what kind of applications you plan on doing. If you're going to just be surfing the web or light surfing, you can get away with like a. Let me pull up a good one real quick here. So let's go link this website here. So basically, it depends on what kind of applications you're doing. There are some cases, like if you have like a couple of wired computers using like category 5E or category 6, you don't actually, if you don't have any Wi-Fi devices and you're worried about people hacking into Wi-Fi, all you would actually need is like a Cisco switch. Like I have one. I'll grab it real quick. You get yourself a switch like this. I've had these for the last 6 years, and I have nothing negative to say about them. These are only 10 100 megabit switches. This is the Cisco model number SE1500. I bought these refurbished at the time, and they've been nothing but reliable. So in a case where you don't want Wi-Fi, that is an excellent option. Or you could, let me find a nice basic router here. Something that most of the routers that they make nowadays, I think you can go less frivolous than that. Okay, they discontinued that model. So I'll go to eBay real quick here. Access. Wireless. And we will 300 megabytes. Linksys E1200 version 2, a 4-port 10100 wireless N router with DDWRT firmware. I've installed numerous of those for random people, and they're simple. They work. I've only had one that I had to come up with a firmware for because it didn't work. So out of all of those, Linksys really has a spectacular line of routers. I worked with Netgear, and some of Netgear stuff I don't have a lot of faith in. Could have been that, well, I don't want to bash Netgear because I like some of their are unmanaged switches. Like they're okay, these are managed. I like the GUI interface that they feature with some of those switches that I've used in the past. I can't remember the models off the top of my head, but in all honesty, I just like the way it was laid out and how easy it was to configure your ports, so like for power over Ethernet, or if you were running a WAN server or LAN or DHCP, or if you wanted certain ports with assigned IP addresses, you could do that. Or if you're using it for a phone system or clock system, because there's so much that you can do with these routers and switches. The possibility is pretty much endless. And most people, they don't even touch the minimum water with most of the equipment that they buy. It's like here in the office, it's the router that I got from my service provider is a gigabit router, 800 and some megabytes of Wi-Fi, and I don't even use most or majority of the speeds of that router. The only thing that I actually get use of is the gigabit portion of it. But then again, the switch that it's plugged into, it's just an old, it's a 20-year-old, okay, maybe 15-year-old Linksys or Cisco / Linksys 10100 switch, and it's not even fast Ethernet. It's just, it is slow, but I tend to repurpose things more than buying new. Eventually, if that one, maybe I'll get lucky at a yard sale and find another one that's like 5 years newer than that one. Because I got a couple of, okay, I mean, I do have a couple of Netgear switches running here in the office. I got one up underneath the table here. I got one on that plastic table over there. So there's two of them running. And then I have, no, I don't have any other switches other than those three running, but I will be adding a second router with a subnet, a different channel. Because when you're testing computers and that, and they might have potential virus, it's better to do it on an isolated network that's not tied into the rest of your mainframe. So I've talked about doing it. Now it's actually time to do something about it. So we will do that tonight. I'm not going to put that on video or do a live stream of it, because what will happen is things won't work, and I'll be using computer talk language, and YouTube really loves that, so we're not going to, I'll talk about it. I'm just going to make it into an access point. Actually, I'm going to put two access points in. One for that, and then there's going to be one for the guests, or guest Wi-Fi. But that one's going to be more restrictive as far as what kind of content. And because I do have people that come in here and they're like, well, what's your guest Wi-Fi? Because they want some of the work I do only takes like 10, 15, 20 minutes. So and the bar across the street's not always open. So they just sit here and wait. And then they get antsy because I don't want to give my internet password out that I change every day on that MercuryNet router. So that's kind of why I'm deploying that setup. And there was a ranch that I basically use the main router in the house as the main central point for the internet coming in. So I had it set up where outside in the service provider box, I just had spliced a couple of wires, had A blue category 5 wire going down to the basement, up to the floor, and the baseboard to the router. And then from there to the terminal box over in the on the that one barn. You just wired up some wires and put some terminal boxes in there with jumpers, and then down in the barn I ran a second router. So what you do, like with a Linksys router like that, instead you put it on bridge. You do it on bridge, and then you make sure you got the same DNS default gateway, DHCP. But instead of using a 192.168.1.1 IP address, you put like a 192.168.1.3 or something. Not all ISPs use that same default setup. There's some that use 10.100.1.0.1. There's some that use 192.168.3.254 or 100.254. So then there's some that use 172.16.28. It depends on how your ISP. Then there's some that use 64.7.128.3. That's just a random IP address for an example. So you also have to take that into consideration if you're looking for an old-time router. Even like an N600 is more than capable, because you can stream, even though that they claim it's only good for surfing the web. And now the thing is, excuse me. The thing you have to realize with a lot of those routers is, you would not be able to have eight or 9 wireless devices on it at once, streaming 4K. That's kind of an awful lot to ask of a 300 or 600 megabyte router. It was only basically that kind of router is intended for casual traffic and for one, like 3 or 4 people maximum. It was never meant to be like a mainstream access point like you use like in a school classroom or Walmart or any public place or a bus depot or a train station or airport. To kind of throw that out there, it's not something that you would use in a setting like that. But in some situations and instances, it's excellent because a lot of times people want to hook their phones wirelessly so they can check their Facebook and do their tweeting and stuff on Twitter or Instagram or their Snapchat. So it's for applications like that router is more than adequate, because not everybody that comes to an event or is going to bring their laptop, or a lot of them have tablets, a lot of them have iPads, a lot of them use iPhones, iPods, some use Android phones. So it's vice versa. As long as, because there's different encryptions and stuff that you can also. If I just look up the E1200 real quick here. Some of those routers have. This one only features a 2.4 gigahertz network instead of the 5 gigahertz or the dual channel. That would be nice if I had multi-screen capturing software on this machine, but I don't have that capability at this time. So if I did, I would show. All right. Basically, you have different security. You got like WEP, which is web. That is very insecure. In anybody that's running Wireshark and that's hooked up to that on an encryption, they could encrypt the password easily. So definitely do not set your router on WEP. WPA is pretty good, but definitely don't leave it on open because anybody driving by can connect and sit and steal your Wi-Fi. And a lot of service providers, including mine, even has data caps on the Wi-Fi. So it's not a very good thing to have data caps, but like the internet service providers said, well, how are we supposed to make a boatload of money if we don't do any of that? Well, practically they shouldn't, but they want to make money. So that's basically the approach that they take. So we're going to get back to finishing out the question. All right, let's get on here. Go back to the other page. So in the spectrum of routers, we will look at, let's look at one that's good for, say they got a gigabit router here. Okay, they got one for 3,200 megabyte. Okay, let's look at it. I know we're going to one excruciating extreme to another here. So they have something called an ECU Linksys MaxStream AC 4000 tri-band wireless smart Wi-Fi router. I have never actually had the pleasure of setting one of those up. Most of my customers, they like secondhand stuff. So that's what I deal with a lot. And we'll even look at the product review of, actually the testimony of it is pretty good. But the thing you also got to realize is if you have like a small house or even a single story house, very small, like a ranch, or not even a ranch, but just like a 4-room house or something, that 300 megabyte router is more than adequate enough to cover the whole house on that small scale perfectly without any interruptions. And chances are you'd even be able to sit out in the yard and use the router. Depending on the size of your yard, you might even be able to sit out in the street and use it, or sit on the property line, or even sit in a neighbor's yard, depending on. So that's something to sit and think about. And they're very cost effective. They're not very expensive. If I can get a good deal on a bunch of them, I still mark up my merchandise to a certain extent, because if you don't mark it up, how do you make any money off it yourself? So if you can get stuff dirt cheap, well, I shouldn't say dirt cheap, but for a very practical price, your profit margin is a lot better. So routers change so frequently. I'm not really a big fan of smart routers, but I know they're interesting. So some of the features that like a smart router would have, like this Linksys EA9300 Max Stream. This kind of router is designed for somebody that's doing a lot of gaming, a lot of video rendering on YouTube, even at N600 or N300 rather. When I was out on a job site, I had my customer log into his YouTube account, and he was able to stream videos perfectly without any interruption, no lagginess or choppiness. So even though that they claim that it's only good for surfing the web and doing, now he didn't have a 4K camera or any fancy recording equipment. It's just basically a Dell Inspiron laptop with the built-in webcam on a computer. It's only 1080 pixel by 1920, which I believe is only like a 2 or 3 megapixel camera on there with just a standard high definition microphone. So, and that's actually all I'm using here right now is just a built-in webcam on this laptop. I haven't hooked the other one up because I was using it on a conference call earlier. So we're going to get back to, so the tri-band Wi-Fi technology, these 3 bands, they can deliver combined Wi-Fi speeds to more devices. So basically, theoretically, so if you have like a multi-story house, like a 2-story or even a 3-story, or if it's a spread out very broad, theoretically, if you don't have plaster or chicken wire style walls, or plaster and lat, or any steel beams running through your house, or anything interference, and you're just using typical drywall, chances are that the coverage should be a lot better than it would in an older house. And a lot of times in a newer house, a lot of your builders, they pre-wire all your Category 5 coaxial telephone communication, all the wiring inside the walls before they put the insulation and drywall in, so that you don't, because that's the new trend. Back like 70, 80, 100, 200, 300 years ago, nobody really thought about plumbing. Nobody thought about electrical. They just put their cobblestone foundation, put their log house up, or fieldstone foundation. They didn't worry about any plumbing and electrical and data communication. But a lot of those houses now, it is there to put in or run wiring to the walls. I know, I've been there, I've done it. And even old school buildings, like that date from like the 1920s, 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. The way that in some areas of the building, the way the ceiling is laid out, it is nearly impossible to successfully run one set of cabling without any interruptions. Especially like between like an old building and a new building. When you're drilling, when you gotta get between the buildings, and you got like 36 inches of concrete in between the 2 structures, and your drill bit is only good for a foot. what you have to do is very nicely talk to the maintenance staff of the building and see if you can get them to nicely weld a rod, get like a rebar rod, cut it down to a certain 2 feet, and then have maintenance weld the drill bit to the end of the rod, and then you take that rod, get yourself a half chuck hammer drill, and then you just drill through the. And if you really want to get fancy and you want to protect the wires that you're running through the wall, you get yourself some conduit. It could be PVC, it doesn't have to be metal conduit. But what you want to do is you take a pocket knife, you go around the burrs, get all the burrs off when you cut the pipe so that it doesn't nick any wires. And if you want to be on the safe side, you can always put electrical tape around the edges of the piping to prevent any nicks or damages when running any future cabling. Now, the thing is, you don't want to mix electrical wires with Category 5 or coaxial cable. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Like in newer buildings, a lot of structural engineers, they figure out chases and stuff for running wires, because that's what the demand of modern day in schools and offices and stuff. So we're going to get back to, so basically, your latest AC technologies for stimulated streaming and gaming of multi-devices. Like I said, with a device like that, you could run a couple of Xboxes off of there. You could run some PlayStations, and you can stream your 4K gaming. Heck, you could probably even have 2 people in the same house doing and not have any interruptions. But the thing that you also have to realize is for the people that are health conscious wise, Wi-Fi is not for you if you're worried about your health to that capacity. Because all those between the 5 gigahertz and the 2.4 gigahertz radio frequency, you will experience unpleasant microwaves through your house. So most people, they don't worry about that. They don't worry about phones, because even phones like these, emit a lot of radio frequencies off of there. So just to keep in mind that everybody's worried about smart meters and that, but your wireless devices are no better. So for those of you out there that are excruciatingly worried about health problems like that, then this router is not for you. So we will get back to, so you can stream spontaneous data on each band or faster. And you also have advanced wireless security, safeguard your network with WPA, WPA2, and this router also features Spi Firewall. And you want to know what Spi Firewall stands for? It's a firewall. It's called, the long name for it is a stateful packet inspection firewall that protects you against examining incoming packets against existing connections. These firewalls cannot be customized to open and close connections. They also do not authenticate packets and cannot detect whether packets come from a legitimate IP address. So it's not perfect, but you gotta give them credit for trying to come up with And this router also does feature USB 3.0. So if let's say that you want to make a file drive, with like a 4 terabyte external drive or a 2 terabyte SSD or something, you could do that. I've never actually done that, but I don't. The only thing that you'd have to make sure is that you keep your battery. You have a battery backup unit hooked with your router and your hard drive hooked up so that if in case of power outage, that it doesn't wreck the drive or wreck the router in the process of saving information. Because you can fry those routers very easily. If you don't, like if you got like a power modulator that is hooked up to, from like, in my instance, I have a satellite dish on the back of the building off of the upstairs balcony from the apartment upstairs. And no, the cabling does not run through the upstairs. I wanted to do it that way, but the landlady is like, nope, you're not doing it that way. You can do it in the basement. So it's more of a mess down in the basement than it would have just run it upstairs down and then just make a chase through that stairwell. I don't actually know what the actual layout is up there, but I don't remember. So basically, that was because you got the line that comes in, and then it's got the amplifier. So if you hook the amplifier up backwards and you surged electric current going into the router, you would really do you make some magic smoke, and then I was told by my service provider, so if you looked it up backwards, what would happen is you'd almost owe us $95 for a new replacement router. And I said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to mess with hooking it up backwards because I don't want to pay $95 for another replacement router. So they said, well, just warning you. We don't give out replacement routers like candy. I guess, well, there are some ignorant people out there that don't know any better that will hook it up backwards. And so I have everything labeled very well. I came in here one Sunday at the label maker and just kind of went through everything and got everything labeled, what protocol was what IP addresses on what device. So it's always good to identify what you have, so you know. So you also have quad-core CPU, which is clocked at 1.8 gigahertz processing for extremely fast data transfer speeds. This kind of router is almost similar to like a more corporate scale in this day and age, where you have like a 10 gigabit like data infrastructure with storage. Most places that I've been in and out of are still using 10100 megabit Cisco switches. The only place that I've ever seen gigabit switches was the college that I'm currently still attending, and the school district that I was on a consulting job for. But as far as I have not seen any infrastructures that are currently using 10 gigabit switches. 10 gigabits it's just wow. It is so fast. You wouldn't believe. It's like taking VMware on a computer that already has an SSD and then you have an SSD that you plug into that computer, and you build a virtual machine on that SSD, copying files from an SSD to building the image and the operating system. And it only takes you probably about 10 minutes from start to finish. But that's only doing like Windows 7 or Windows XP or Windows 2000. But still, that's not bad. Windows 10 is about 20 minutes on a SSD. And I'm not talking the latest version. I'm talking one from 2015 when it first came out. So basically, the file transferring rates, if you're doing a lot of modding and you're doing a lot of YouTubing and stuff, then this is definitely the router for you. You also, why don't we go into in depth on some of it just blows me away that they incorporate that into their routers. So advanced beaming is, well, with this system compared to the typical routers that run 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, this one maximizes the Wi-Fi performance and coverage for both 2.4 and 5. Why don't we elaborate on that a little bit? So basically, well, that wasn't what I was looking for. Let's go to. It is a very simplified, in very simplified terms, beamforming is all about focusing a Wi-Fi signal in a specific direction. Traditionally, when your router broadcasts a Wi-Fi signal, it broadcasts the data in a direction. With beamforming, the router determines where your device, laptop, smartphone, tablet, or whatever else is located and projects a strong signal in that specific direction. Beamforming promise a fast storage Wi-Fi signal with longer range for each device rather than simple broadcasting in all directions. The router's attempts to broadcast wirelessly data intended for a device in a way that optimizes the device so that the end result of beamforming a better Wi-Fi signal replacing for your device. Here's a simplified graphics. So today's Wi-Fi is just kind of like a 360-degree circle. In beamforming is you got your router here, you got your devices here. So it'll just shoot the signal out to. I think that's actually quite remarkable from routers from 20 years ago, back in the early 2000s and late 90s. Now, when smart routers first came out, I was very skeptical because I was almost contemplating buying one of those Norton Cube routers one time. That was maybe about 4 years ago, and I was like, I don't want that. But knowing what I know now, I think I probably would have suggested the idea of going ahead and getting one because they're quite remarkably. It's amazing how well the technology works. So now the next $1 million question is beamforming really worth it? Beamforming is becoming a standard on the high-end 802.11c Wi-Fi router, up there with other new features like the tri-band Wi-Fi router. You can also get beamforming on your router. That certainly is a good thing. There's no downside to getting beamforming aside from the money you may have to spend to get a more expensive router with this feature. You may not actually want to buy a router with beamforming technology if the router costs a lot extra. This technology will be most useful with the new 802.11 AC device that supports beamforming. So if you're using like old equipment, crap, what do I have here? That I don't have much here. I don't have any old laptops here right now. But so if you're using like Windows XP laptops or just our old 7 laptops, chances are beamforming is not going to work with it. I don't actually have any devices that would work with. So actually, for me to invest in that kind of router would be a waste of money. And even for this infrastructure business here, I cannot foresee wasting any money on such a device like that. Because one, I'm only in this room, so you have to evaluate what your needs are. Sure, it'd be fun to have all that stuff, but you also gotta be on a practical level when it comes to technology, and chances are you're not even going to use most of what that router is capable of doing. So, not that I'm trying to deter people away from more expensive equipment, but we're going to move on because I could get on the bandwagon about this all night. All right, let's get on here. So basically, as far as well, I think I hope I answered the question that the viewer wanted to know about routers. Because basically, I wasn't going to get much into the enterprise networking end of it because I would probably be preaching about for 4 hours, and everybody would be bored. So we're not gonna get into that. Maybe in a later blog, we'll talk more on that topic. But for now, we're just gonna hold off. So next on the question is, what kind of computer would you buy in this day and age? And would you recommend going for a home style computer in the office or business style or gaming or supercomputer or workstation? Or well, the thing that you have to look at is you pretty much get what you pay for in this day and age. So for instance, let's go to hp.com. So you want to see what you can get for we'll elaborate on the question here. Because you also elaborated that what's the cheapest thing you can buy that'll just get you by. So go to laptops here. Go to home use. Go to stream. I don't think that was stream. I think that was I wonder if that was Pavilion. So let's sort lowest price. Alright, that was Stream. Maybe that was Essential. Let's check Essential ones. Yeah, this is more what I was looking at. No, that's not what I wanted either. I think what I was looking for was, I'm going to go back to Stream. So for $249, you can get yourself, these are both the same. This is the cheapest computer that you can buy from Hewlett Packard. That is a Windows 10. So this is the HP Stream 14DS0050NR. And this one features Windows 10 Home S, AMD Core 2 Dual A Series processor with AMD Radeon R3 graphics, 4 gigs of DDR4 memory, and then 64 gigs of eMMC memory storage. And you also get a 14 diagonal HD screen. Optical drive not included. You also get a typical Banger 802.11 B/G/N/AC 2x2 Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.2 combo. And then you get your typical 45 watt power supply. They claim that video playback battery life is up to 8 hours and 15 minutes. I don't really believe that. Not for $400 or for $249. And then you also get your one multi-format SD card reader slot. You get an HP webcam with integrated digital microphone, cheap tinny stereo speakers. So interesting stuff that's going on outside. So let's get back to it. So the computer also features an HP image pad with multi-touch gesture support. Now the thing I don't like about these cheap laptops is, to be honest, totally, I've used cheap laptops, and those trackpads on there are totally out of whack. They just feel like crap. So that's something you have to sacrifice if you're buying a $249 laptop. And chances are, when you're trying to stream videos and movies on there, it's not going to work that well. It's a throwaway computer. There's nothing repairable inside of it. I wouldn't even buy it myself. Let's read the testimonies and just kind of glance at the reviews real quick. And HP won't even let me do that. Oh, sure. Now they do. Great for the price. I just got this set up and had to do a few little issues, but figured it out. Just my lack of knowledge of Windows 10, well, System 7 Pro. I did add an SD card for my storage. Terabyte, nice little thing. or a little system for the price. I would recommend this for home use or on the go. Actually, this computer runs better than the system that they gave me at work. I find it hard to believe. How can a cheapest computer on the market run better than a computer in a corporate work environment? Chances are the computer that they give you at work is better than that stream book. And if that's not the case, then what planet are you living on? Okay, I shouldn't criticize that person because it probably is really great for them. They probably are ignorant and they think, well, this is the greatest thing I've ever had. But as far as just surfing the internet, and if you take the bloatware off, like the Xbox components, the virtual reality, and some of the other media stuff on that system, you could actually potentially have a faster running system, not by much, but by a little. And if you run advanced system care on there beforehand and you run driver booster, you could actually have yourself a decent computer afterwards. So yeah, $249. I thought it was $250, but so let's look at a Chromebook. For instance, it's the cheapest Chromebook that I can buy here. $269. And that is the HP 14 DB0020NR. I've actually did service on a model just like that. That was back in December of 19. And in order to work on the keyboard, you pretty much had to disassemble the whole damn thing. Excuse my language. But unbelievable. You got to disconnect everything. You got to take the screen off. You got to disassemble part of the screen because some of the screws and stuff are embedded inside in order to get to the connectors off so you can actually work on it without destroying the thing. There's a reason why they're cheap. And I would not pay $269 for that Chromebook. Because this one features Chrome OS, AMD Core dual-core A-series processor with a Radeon R4R graphics, 4 gigs memory, and 32 gig eMMC storage. Now with the Chromebook, after I got it back together and I used it for a little bit, it's actually not that slow, surprisingly. But Chrome OS, it is such a simple operating system. There's nothing really. Now, if you try to run 10 on there, you'd probably kill the thing before you got your 6 months out of it. And those things are only built to last for like a year and a half. They did a study on some of those devices, and so out of curiosity, let's look at the most expensive Chromebook. For $600, you can buy yourself the Chromebook X360 14-DA0021 NR. And this one features the 8th gen Core i3 processor with Intel UHD graphics 620, 8 gigs of memory, and only 64 gigs of eMMC memory with a 14 diagonal full HD touchscreen. Then again, feels like $250 or something. Yeah, I'd take a gamble on it, but not for $600. Because the $1 million thing is you have to look at is the serviceability of it, and there is no serviceable parts on it, nor is there any ease of working on them. Because these things are designed to be throwaways. So, honestly, and yes, they do use those for schools as well. And I honestly would not waste. So I'll just give you another example of a decent laptop. So you got your typical Banger Pavilion laptop, so you can get the highest price one that you can buy is $1,219. But for that, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here. You get a 17-inch display. This is the Pavilion Gaming 17 CD 0095NR model. You get 10 home 64-bit, 9th gen Intel Core i7, and you also get the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 graphics, 4 gigs of GDDR5 dedicated, and you get 16 gigs of memory and 512 gigs of SSD. That is not bad in my opinion. Because you also, let's look at specs real quick here. And you also get a lot of other good features as well. But this computer is not for everybody either. If you plan on gaming or do light gaming, then this is the computer for you. If you plan on doing casual video editing, this is definitely the computer for you. Or if you plan on making music or editing photos or watching a lot of movies and stuff, or you, as a general computer, you could even just to even throw it out there, you probably could even hyperthread. It probably has even hyperthreading capability. So, as an all-around computer, for somebody like me, this would probably be ideal on the low end of the home marketing. But for somebody that's typically that wouldn't be doing half of that. That's just strictly like office homework and stuff like that. So here you can get yourself an HP Pavilion Ryzen 5 for like $569 with 8 gigs or 16 gigs of memory and 256 SSD with the AMD Radeon Vega 8 graphics. And it's also touchscreen. So if you had a stylus pen that came with your computer, you can sign documents, you can write up posters, you can make all sorts of interesting art projects with it. So if you're into that kind of thing that's potentially that would be an excellent computer for you. But most typically for somebody that does basic work, this Pavilion 360 14T-DW000 with a Core i3 10 Gen with the basic H or UHD graphics, 8 gigs of memory, 128 gig solid state. 449, a little steep, but I think for somebody that's just strictly doing office work, that would be more than adequate. So we're going to get out of the Pavilion section and just kind of go over to the Spectre. And just kind of you also get I've got a lot of decent laptops here, but the Essentials is kind of, I have to say, Envy is the ultimate of. If I was going to get the Envy, I would get the one with the 4 gigs NVIDIA GeForce graphics, so I can render video and edit videos. So we're going to get out of the home section of laptops. I also did forget to mention that there is Omen HP. So for any hardcore gamers, for about $2,699, you can get yourself a Core i7 with the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 with Max Q design, 16 gigs of memory, terabyte SSD. So that's probably an overkill for most gamers. Even Ryzen core, you'd be able to play a decent amount of games. So I'm not a true gamer by heart. I never was. So let's kind of take a look at the ProBook section here. ProBook is more of the low end of the business machine sector. So let's look at the cheapest business machine that you can buy for today's money, according to HP right now. So they have the ProBook X360 11-inch G5, which stands for Generation 5, because this is the 5th generation of the series of. I know those people out there. How about that? Because back in 2013, HP went from modeling their computers from like 8460p, 8470p to like 400, HP ProBook 400, HP EliteBook 800. They went from 4-digit numbers down to 3-digit numbers. And basically, this kind of computer that's for $569. This is an Intel Pentium Silver processor. This one features Windows 10 Pro, 8 gigs with 128 SSD, with a touchscreen and the UHD graphics 6.5. This is a netbook, and this is designed for like classroom use, like in schools. Because in classrooms, they might do streaming. They might do Zoom meetings. Chances are they're not gonna be playing games. It's all educational. They'll be going on websites, participating in classroom polls. So in the classroom sector, you don't need anything fancy or spectacular for that application. So let's look at, so for the higher end, actually this is the cheaper. Personally, I think the Intel Pentium Silver processor is better than the Celeron processor. And actually, you're getting more bang for your buck on the Gen 5 EE notebook PC than you are for $976 on the Celeron processor with only 4 gigs of RAM. The only difference here is you have a touchscreen display, and that one is not touchscreen. Sorry, but personally, I think I would go with the Silver processor over the Celeron, because Celeron is just painfully slow. So the cheapest book or laptop that you can get for about starting at $1,300 or $1,083, which is on sale for $606. You would get yourself Windows 10 Pro with the AMD Ryzen 3 APU processor with 4 gigs, 500 gig hard drive, and just a typical HD display. And these are all customarily, so you can get more memory. A lot of these you can go up to 16 gigs of RAM. Some of them feature 32 gigs. It depends on what platform you buy. And a lot of them now you can upgrade to the M2 style SSDs, and you can put, and then some of them you can put better graphics in them. You can't personally, but when you order it from the factory, you can get those options. All right, let's look at a more expensive. So for a typical, let's look at an Intel one. So for $1,459, you can get yourself the 8th gen Intel Core i7 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, which you could easily go up to 16 when you custom order. Let's look at it anyway. This is the this is the ProBook 440, and this is ProBook 640. They got the 450, 430. I didn't realize that they had that many models. I only thought they had the 2. Okay, that one doesn't have customary options. The one I would definitely stay away from is the 430 4SP 82 AV-MB, because for 1,300 to be getting with a Celeron processor and 4 gigs of RAM and a 500 mechanical drive or gig mechanical drive style hard drive with the HD anti-glare, I just don't think that's worth that, in my opinion. Not with a Celeron processor. I would never dump a Celeron processor on anybody. Not in a corporate workplace. I never realized how itchy it would to have a beard. Well, I got a certain reason for why I got one going right now. So let's kind of look at the more high-end elite books. So basically, like with I was going to explain this a minute or two ago, but with a ProBook ProBooks is more the business end. It's more for the office setting. It's like with a ProBook, it's more of a no thrills computer, even though it's the low end of the business series of laptops. But with a ProBook, a lot of them had more ARM processors, so you can run virtual machines. You can use different applications. And the reason that with a business machine that there's a lot of advantages over the home laptops or desktops, for instance. A lot of times in corporate with computers, they're worried about data being harvested or privacy issues. But the thing that you have to look at is let's say in the government, for instance, or in a corporate environment, do you really want people's social security numbers getting leaked? Or do you want classified documents that could ruin a company being exposed on the internet or being copied? So what they do is they lock a lot of times you can lock the USB ports on these computers, and you can prevent unauthorized users, including your employees, from plugging in a flash drive. Sure, you can charge your phones off. That doesn't restrict you from that. It's just there's certain security protocols that you can enable in the BIOS setting. You don't even have to do it inside Windows. And with the BIOS setting, you can also put supervisor passwords on the machine so that every Tom, Dick, and Harry can't just go in there and undo it so they can copy files and stuff. And even a lot of schools are going to that. Because the technical college that I've dealt with in the past that I bought computers from, they tend to sell their computers with their BIOS passwords on there, and they don't bother to tell anybody until you want to do a configuration change or you want to add something or do an expansion. And that really kind of ticks me off that they don't bother to remove it before they sell it, and hoping that nobody will ever notice. It's not a good practice to get into when you're discarding old equipment, because chances are somebody else is going to get use out of it, and when you disable somebody out of those features, they're not going to be very happy. So basically with the EliteBooks, I've worked with many different models over time. So let's kind of look here. So for about $1,120 on sale, you can get the cheapest one right now is an EliteBook 745 G6 notebook PC. This is customizable. So what we want to do, keep it on 10 Pro. So you can actually upgrade to Ryzen 7, clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. So that brings your price up to $1,315. And then for $18 more, you can get the infrared, same integrated HD camera with a triple mic webcam. So what's another $18? And here you got different screen variations. You can go with, you get your 14 diagonal F HD LED anti-glare for HP webcam, slim 1920 by 1080 for $88. And then a few bucks more, you can get one of the IR slim. And then for a few more dollars, you can get the one anti-glare which is basically the same thing, but instead of having this screen is a touch screen. So then it goes. So for the best one that you can get for about $275 a screen, you get a 14 LED UWVA anti-glare sure view integrated privacy screen. And what's nice about the privacy screen is, so if you're working in a coffee shop or you're at home and you don't want your wife or girlfriend or lover or to see what you're working on, or your kids to see what you're working on, or even in your corporate office. Now there's two logical things that you have to look at. There's like four logical things you have to look at here. The thing that you have to look at is when you may think you have all the privacy in the world when you're on your computer, but in all honest opinion, your IT administrator can look at your browsing history. Your IT administrator could go into a remote management software program protocol on his workstation and monitor what you're doing. The ISP could see what your browsing history. The NSA, National Intelligence Agency, and the Central Intelligence Agency, they're monitoring your every move. And then for those of you that are religious, God knows your every move. He knows what's your intentions. So you think you're alone on a computer? You're not. It's all another topic for another day. But basically what you have to... So for about... And you can also get yourself some DDR4 12800 memory of 32 gigs. And that only ran... It was only about $660 more. So... And then for storage... Storage is a very good... Another good subject to get into real quick. A lot of people are getting away from the traditional mechanical hard drives that have the spinning disks and platters. You got your first gen solid state disks. You got your second gen. And now you have your M2 and PCIe NVMe SSDs. The technology is quite remarkable when it comes to the storage. And because back in 2016, I was reading an article from IBM that they were working on making like a 100 terabyte drive the size of your wallet. And I thought that was unrealistic and that was never going to become a thing. But it is becoming a thing. Unrealistically, it seems like it'll never happen, but never say never, because you never know what they're going to come up with as far as technology. And so and then there's also different manufacturers. I would have to say between Crucial, Samsung, and SanDisk, they have a pretty good market for solid state drives and a good reputation as far as those products go. All those computers that I happen to have solid states in, those computers were pretty much on their last legs to begin with. I pretty much verified that those solid state drives, after running them through an analyzing program, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. So it's the thing you have to remember with solid state is you can never defragment them because you will burn up the chips. Sure, it'll go really fast. It's like if you ever tried defragmenting a flash drive and you wonder why things don't work on there as well as they used to. Well, that's because you're destroying your USB jump drive when you need to defragment. Defragmentation was only meant for SCSIs, IDE, SATA mechanical spinning drives. They were never meant for electronic memory or solid state memory, rather. And the thing is, solid state drives can fail at any time. But with the traditional mechanical spinning drives, those are rated for about 20,000 hours. And a lot of people are like, well, 20,000 hours, that seems like a lot. In all honest reality, I've probably said this a million times already, but it is not a large amount of time. Any mechanical drive that lasts beyond 20,000 hours, you are pretty lucky, in my honest opinion, to have a drive last that excruciatingly long. Sometimes they even fail before the 20,000 hour mark. But you get what you pay for. Not all of them are perfect either. There's some that are flawed. And some that you might just happen to be the guy that bought one that was flawed. But usually their service department and their dedication and quality control on those drives, they're pretty reputable. As far as Western Digital and Seagate, but there's not a lot of other companies that make mechanical drives these days. So, and as far as M2 memory and M2 solid state drives, I don't usually have a lot of customers that request. A lot of customers are bringing me computers that are two decades old, decade and a half, computers from 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't usually get a lot of modern equipment from 2020 or 2019, or I more specialize in, I do some newer computers. But most of my clients bring me older stuff because a lot of the computer shops or consulting places, they don't want to waste their time on old stuff. And I got a lot of parts lying around for older computers. Okay, I shouldn't say I got a lot of stuff because I sort of downsized and sold off some of it to other people that were building computers for different projects, and I made different deals and stuff and bartered on a few things, but so yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. So basically, I'd have to do an online webinar on different memory and hard drives and stuff, but there is one coming up, and I will be attending, or not in person. This conference is taking place out in Vegas or somewhere around Nevada area. I don't have that kind of money to fly out there, so I'm just going to do the webinar here in the office on the computer. So let's. And the other thing that you have to look at is eventually the newer technology with the hard drives and solid state, the prices will go down eventually. So you don't have to have all the newest, latest, and greatest technology all at once. Even I don't keep up with it. But we're going to wrap this question up here because I could carry on about solid state drives and laptops for hours. So we're going to kind of move briskly here and finish up. We're going to move to the Z-Books here. So basically, Z-Books, if you're into the more heavy workload type of work that you're doing, chances are what you'd want is you get yourself one with. So the cheapest one that you can buy here is like $1,167 with a Core i5, 8 gigs. So these things are basically, if you get one with a graphics card, you can. These are designed for people that are doing CAD, people that are doing drawings, news editing, photo editing, video editing, or if you're running thousands of applications, or if you're doing coding, or chances are that would be a laptop for you. So let's say you wanted to look at a more expensive model with the high end. So for about $5,039, you can get yourself the Core i9, 64 gigs of memory, 512 SSD storage with a. In this one, you also get 16 gigs of GDDR dedicated video. That computer, I would buy that in a heartbeat if I had the money. That is an immaculate computer for an office. You're not going to get any better than that. But on a serious note, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to different. So we're going to move on to cameras now, because that was actually one of. I hate to cut people short, because I know they want good and valuable information so that they can make appropriate purchasing decisions. We will do the desktop computers maybe in tomorrow's stream. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but we kind of got to move along here and try and get everything in. Because I've been on the stream for an hour and a half already. So let's. So as far as cameras, and it basically what the viewer was looking at is what kind of camera would you buy that was kind of conventional for both application, like for taking movies, and what I would look at is Canon makes a very good camera. Nikon, in my opinion, they have a decent line of cameras. Let's just take a look here. Not only can you take some brilliant pictures with some of those cameras, but even some of the video quality, even Sony has So let's look at Canon here. Some of these cameras you can get up to 40 megapixels and above. Let's see if I can find. Let's go to cameras. All right. All right. Let's see here. Cameras. Let's just have a Canon. So, for a typical person in this day and age that wants just a general or go-to camera, between a 15 and a 19.9 megapixel, for around $340, you can get a decent, get yourself a Canon EOS 4000D. It's a DSLR camera. It's an 18.55 millimeter. And you also get, so if you go to Amazon and you buy this kit, you get your carrying bag, you get your flash, you get your lens caps, you also get a spare lens caps, you get multi-batteries, lanyards, USB 2.0 SDHC card reader, and then you also get a cheap rinky-dink tripod, and then you get a Transcend wonky branded 32 gig SD card, and then you get your 18 to 55 millimeter lens to go along with it. So you got two lenses with the camera. So for about $339, I would say that's a good starter camera. And anybody that's not even that serious, or anybody that's even more serious than, that's about, you go to a 40 megapixel and above. So for around $1,188, you can get, okay, let's look at it better. A lot of those cameras you can get different lenses for. You can get auto adjusting lenses, you can get all sorts of, because for certain applications, like if you're, now these kind of cameras that are 40 megapixels plus, a lot of YouTubers use those for filming. And don't get me wrong, Canon has an excellent reputation for photography equipment, but personally, I would not use a digital camera for filming. If I was going to get that professional on the level of filming, I would get a film camera, or not a film camera. I had a friend that was, let's see, video camera. So I would get the Canon 4K I got a lot of knockoff cameras here that are 4K for like $120 some. I would not waste my money on those off-branded ones. Canon makes. There's one that I would basically get the one for what the heck was I looking at here? This is actually a decent one itself. So for $2,495, you don't get a whole kit in that, but I would have to say between the Panasonic HC-X1 4K Ultra HD Professional Cam Quarter Black, and that has a decent reputation as far as film quality. And then you also have the Canon, between a Canon and a Panasonic, they have a pretty good reputation. Even Sony, let's take a look at Sony's. This is an older one, but for as far as the film quality, this kind of looks like the old style VHS shoulder cameras that you've seen back like in the 80s and 90s. But if you're not really serious about the 4K, then the 1080 is perfectly fine, then I would even buy that because you got a nice shotgun mic on there. You got a nice flash lighting system. It's not the light. It's not like a regular light bulb. This is more designed for filming, and the lighting on the light bar itself adjusts according to the lighting scenario in the room or the setting. So not all models feature that. You have to do your research on when you're buying cameras. But as far as the camera itself, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you're looking at cameras like these, because you got the appropriate lens system. You also have a viewfinder. You got decent batteries, and you also have other options that you can buy with the camera and accessories you can get for it. So we're going to move on to unbelievable, but what kind of cars would I buy in this day and age? Now, to get right off the bat here, I would never buy another new car. I'm the kind of guy that buys old cars that are 20 years old. So let's go to carsforsale.com. I'll just kind of give you a few classic ideas of what I'd buy in today's economy. So as far as if I was going to buy a compact car, I'd go to, preferably I would go with Dodge. I get a Neon for sure. I get the high. What I look at is I'm kind of a manual transmission nut here. So where the heck am I even looking? Here we are. So for look at 2000. Let's see here. Something that looks kind of good. So I got a 2005 SXT here. There's only 98,000 miles on it. It's got a little minor rust on it, but for $1,200, the car is not bad. You got your air conditioning, you got your cassette player, you got your nicely laid out climate system, and you also got electric windows and electric locks and cruise. So, ideally, that would make an excellent work car, in my opinion. Not everybody likes Mopar. Some are Chevy people, some are Ford, some are Honda, Toyota, Volkswagen, some are Mazda people. So you're not going to really please people with what you drive because not everybody likes the same thing. So if I was going to buy a compact car from Mopar, that would definitely be one option I would go with. It's old, I know, but that's preferably what I would buy. And if I was going to go the van or new compact or midsize style car, I would have to say for the car part, I would get a Volkswagen because at one point in time, this is like back in the 80s, like the Plymouth Horizon and Dodge Omni and the Volkswagen Rabbit, they're pretty much all the same car. So, and if I was going to buy the Volkswagen, I would get the Golf Ultra or the Golf Sportwagon in a diesel. And you're thinking, why diesel? But your fuel economy would be better. And what's nice is with the hatchback is you can fold it down and you can haul a lot of oxy furniture or computers around or use it as your work vehicle. So that's, and they're the Volkswagens are kind of flashy looking. And like if you buy the diesel car, it'll last you 5 times longer than your gas burner traditional cars in this day and age. People's major complaints with cars are, how come they don't last so long? How come they just die within like 5 years of owning them, or they throw a rot or something? The thing that people don't realize is when you got a car, you got to take care of it. You got to keep up with your oil changes. You got to keep up with check engine lights. You got to keep up with all the fluids. Anything that breaks on the car, you got to take care of. You got to wash your car at least once a month. Wax it at least once a year. You don't have to religiously wax it, but you got to take care of what you have. And then if you really want to get fancy and critical, what you can do is... Yeah, that wasn't any... I'm not expecting that person, so... There's a spray that you can buy for all your rubber joints underneath the car. I was watching a YouTube video on it. The guy is really fascinating. The guy's name is his YouTube channel is Post 10. And he bought some chemical agent from like, it was either O'Reilly's or Advanced Auto or something. Or AutoZone. Or Napa. I think it was Napa. That you spray on all like the rubber bushings and stuff. And it's supposed to keep the rubber from drying out and cracking. That's also something that you can do to prolong the life of mechanicals underneath or in an engine bay. And then any rust spots that develop, what you want to do is, if it's just surface rust, scrape off the surface rust, get yourself some rust converter, paint it, and then you get your glossy coat. Like if it's underneath the car or something, depends on what parts. You just spray it, and then if you really wanted to go all out, you could get a clear coat, put over the top of it. Now the thing is, if you really want them, now if you got like surface rust on the exterior of your car, then chances are if you're really good at painting cars and you can spray paint a car and make it blend in and make it look like it's always like new, good for you. But 9 times out of 10, typical guys like me, you try to do stuff like that, and it's either it's going to blemish or it's going to stick out like a sore thumb, or you're not going to get that perfect consistency when painting. So I already got a garden tractor that I'm going to do that with, because tractor's from 2018, and I tend to have my keys hanging on my belt, and the keys, after riding around for so long, and the keys jostling around, it actually wore all the paint off. But the clear coat, the paint process that they put on a tractor was so substandard. You look at it like a paint job from like a 1960s to 1970s tractor compared to a paint job on a new lawnmower or car. And I noticed that the paints on the vehicles nowadays, it just does not seem to have that good of a quality as it once did. Now, the minivan that I'm driving, for instance, that was one of those certified. I have documentation basically talking about it. But the Chrysler, not first Chrysler themselves, but in Michigan, when they assemble the cars, every so often when they have a vehicle in the assembly line, they were doing it like 20 years ago for some EPA, or not EPA, but some government standard at the time. And the van that I'm driving happens to be the van that they completely took it apart to do, that they did government did an inspection on, to make sure that everything was up to snuff, everything was assembled correctly, and then it would properly get assembled according to Mopar's guidelines and recommendations and schematics. So that is the most solid van that I have ever seen. It's not bad for 2001. I put over 22,000 miles on it since I've gotten it. And you're thinking, how? Well, it's easy. You do a lot of driving, and you put on miles. So if I was going to buy an SUV, because that was another question within the same. So what we're going to look at is, I was going to buy an SUV. I'm not really a Chevy guy at heart, but I would get myself the 2000. What the heck am I looking at here? So if I was going to go SUV, GM product, for instance, we'll go to GMC. I would get the GMC Yukon. Not the XL. XL would be the big oxy overkill of an SUV. But I would just get the shorty SUV, because you still get the 5.3 liter V8 pushrod engine. Yeah, let's go to the 2006. I would get. Oh, this one. I would not need the Denali package. I would just get the SL. The SL for the 1500. I don't want the Yukon XL. I just want the SL. Okay, maybe we'll go SLE then. If I can find the. I would get like a 2001 Yukon X, or the GMC Yukon XL SLE. Because actually, those things are built better than like your Equinoxes and your Equinoxes. You got your gas tank right underneath the bed of the back of your vehicle, so you can't haul anything with an Equinox. But some of those pushrod GM engines will go forever. And the Tahoe from 2001, I think, it stands out. It's not gaudy looking. It doesn't scream Cadillac all over it. It's a down to earth looking SUV, in my opinion. And I kind of like the sand color option. And if you take really good care of those vehicles, it'll last you a long time. That's with any vehicle. But there's some vehicles that their reputations aren't as good as. Now, what's nice about these older Tahoes, or Yukon rather, your instrument cluster is not so confusing that it'll give you a headache trying to figure out how to operate it. And so if I was going to go on a smaller range of an SUV, I would go. And if I was going to go to diesel route, I would go GMC Suburban 2500 with the 6.5 Detroit diesel. Let's see, what would be a cool? I think white would be a nice. So, get myself. If I had a diesel version, I would have like a 95 or a 96 2500 Suburban with a diesel. And I would probably straight pipe it. And if I was going to go a smaller or mid-sized SUV, I would go back to the Dodge Durango. The Journey is a very flashy-looking SUV, but the problem is you can only tow like 2,500 pounds with it. That's even less than the Dodge Caravan Shorty van. Like if you get the Grand Caravan today, you can tow 3,600 pounds. So Dodge Journey is totally out. And I wouldn't get a brand new Durango either. I'd get like a 2011. And I wouldn't get the fancy trim either. I would just get all I would want is just the SE. That's all I would want. I don't want 2021. I want 2011. All right. I guess they don't offer SE. Okay, let's try SXT. So I would get the SXT since that's the base model that they apparently offer. I would either get a dark gray or a silver. I'm kind of a dark gray and silver and sand kind of guy. This is more no thrills. You still got the stupid navigation system and the backup camera and all that on there. I can actually use a rearview mirror compared to some. I never actually owned any vehicles with backup cameras or driven any with them. Actually, I would have to be wrong on that. I drove there was a Chevy Cruze one time that had the Equinox and then a Malibu and a two different Ford Focuses, two different Ford Escapes. So I have used 4 different vehicles that had backup cameras. I didn't own them. I didn't rent them. They're just friends that I borrowed them from. So if I was going to buy a van or minivan, instantaneously I would have to pick a Dodge Caravan. In my honest opinion, not everybody likes Caravans. Some think that they're complete piles of junk and big piles of rolling crap. But they've been making them since the 80s. And as long as you took good care of them, they were spectacular vehicles. So I really like the looks between 2001 and 2007. They were very aerodynamic looking, very modest looking. Now, when you look like at a Toyota, I think it was a Sienna, the earlier ones weren't too bad. They were down to earth. But the later years, it's like Honda Pilot and Odyssey. I think this is the Odyssey. And then a Nissan Quest. Some of those vans got so gaudy looking that it wasn't even funny anymore. A lot of them there towards the end of line for a lot of those vans. They would sit there and try and make something out of those, make them look gaudy and stupid. But Dodge, in my opinion, and even when Chevy and Ford made the vans, they kept them very modest looking. They were not goofy and stupid and all El Crapo looking. So if I was going to buy another Dodge Caravan, I would definitely probably upgrade to the 2007 of the same series. But I don't want 4-cylinder crap. I'd want the 3.3 liter. Basically, my only knock against is that you don't have a tack. It's kind of fun to have a tack on a van, in my opinion. As you kind of can see what the RPMs are. Let's limit this down to 2001. And silver. So for 2001, the 3.3 liter, it's the base. SE was the base model for that year. But I just kind of like the way it looked on the interior. It was kind of, what's nice about the van is the insurance is cheap on them. You don't have to have full coverage. They're not classified as sports vehicles. And you can actually even use them like a small truck. The only thing I don't recommend doing is hauling a lawnmower inside. Or anything that smells tremendous. But as far as like you can haul wood, you can take the seats out and you can use it as a cargo van. They actually, for that time era, they did offer it in an LE or ES rather. Well, they don't have any for sale this time. So mainly the two packages that they offered back in that era, the Dodge Caravan, is they had the SE, which is the more stripped down version. Now, some of you will be confused why stripped down is. Some of the SEs from 2001 had even a basic tack and speedometer setup, and you didn't have as many buttons, and your climate control system was slightly different. But I will be making a YouTube video on my 2001 van sometime this summer, preferably in daylight. Maybe in July or August we'll do that. So basically, as for a good knock-around van, definitely invest your money into a Dodge Caravan or Grand Caravan. It's a vehicle that's going to last you for a long time, and as long as you take proper maintenance of it, you're not going to have any major problems. So we're gonna wrap up on trucks for tonight. So if I was gonna buy a pickup truck, actually there's two topics yet, and then we're gonna call it a night on the stream. So if I was gonna buy a truck, if this would be an instantaneous automatic given, I would have to say if I had to pick a Ford truck, my ultimate favorite would be the 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesel. I would go, I'd get myself like a 97. I'll go diesel, of course. And there's actually quite a few of them that popped up on the list already. I would basically get the XLT package with the extended cab with the 8-foot bed. And of course, I would like the OEM foot or step up into the truck. And last but not least, a color matching truck cap to go on. I don't know, there's just something about truck caps on trucks that just make them more official than a truck without a truck cap. A lot of people ridicule me for the idea of putting a truck cap on a truck. But I don't know, it's just it's a nostalgic thing. But it's definitely something I would have on a truck, because you can lock your tools and stuff in the truck and not worry about people Mickey Mousing around with it or tampering with it. And the thing I like about the 90s Ford pickup trucks is I like the color schemes that they have on. Like you got your two-tone, got your dark blue or light blue stripe, or you got your white with the dark blue stripe down the center, or your dark blue truck with a white stripe down the center, or sometimes they even have fancier striping set up on there. So a lot of the newer Ford trucks, they're not really the same. Well, basically, the truck is less likely for problems in the future. So there's a lot of different options out there that I would reconsider. And then if I didn't go Ford, I would go Dodge, like a W3, like a D250 or W250. from like 1991 or 93. So let's look at W Ram 250. I would get the 5.9 Cummins diesel engine. I wouldn't mess with the gasoline one. And then again, that truck I would have a camper cap on the back as well. So if I went 2,500, I wouldn't go any newer than 2001 and 1984. And basically one I would look for is here's one I was looking at. I should just narrow down a diesel, and then I wouldn't have to look as hard. There's a few different variations of Dodge trucks. I don't like the ones that are jacked up so high that you got to use a ladder to crawl up into them. I would rather have one that's a little bit lower to the ground, with normal shocks and normal suspension. The only thing I would do different is I put a straight pipe on there, but I would not make it obnoxious looking. I would keep it more in realism. All right, let's see what I can come up with here. I would get one with the 8-foot bed, the extended cab, or the camper cap. And I pretty much found that would be the SLT quad cab, as they call it. A lot of those Dodge trucks, you can run them for like 400,000 miles with the diesel, and same with the Ford. So, last but not least, if you're going to pick a luxury vehicle, or luxury mid-size or full-size car, what would you get? Or what would you recommend? Honestly, I wouldn't recommend any luxury car, to be exact. But I do have a few that I would go with. One, I would go with, I like the look of the Nissan Maxima. Before 2000, or prior to 2003. And of course, it would have to have the V6. Well, the Nissan Maxima really wasn't a luxury car, but I would buy another I would buy a Maxima. They had their leather seats and their imitation wood paneling and the chrome door handles and stuff like that. But that's one car I would buy. Nothing newer than 2002. And as far as the Ultima, I don't think I would. Ultima was only a four banger. And some of these are offered in with the V6 as well. Let's see what they have here. I guess you could say I would maybe think about an Ultima. Okay, maybe not. So that's as far as I would go with Nissan. I do like some of the Subarus. I'd either get myself a Forester or an Outback. As far as like a Toyota, I would have to say my ultimate first choice would be Camry. And I would get the SLE V6. No, that's not. Maybe it was the XLE. I don't think I would go any newer than 2001. Because that is the fully loaded car. Well, like I said, I'm not really into modern 2019, 2020 cars. I would get like a 2001 Camry. This one's got the leather seats in here. No, this one doesn't feature imitation wood, but in my opinion, it's very nice. It's definitely something I would buy. And if I was I'm gonna buy a the luxury end of Honda would be a Acura. I don't really know the Acura models as well as I should. But then again, I would buy myself something. I didn't know. MS DX, NSX, no. I would have to say either the RL would be a choice. It's like Infinity. It's like like Lexus. No, actually, Acura is Honda's high end. Lexus is. So if I was going to buy a Lexus, it'd be the E300 basically, or E330 or something. That'd be an automatic given there. So they're nice cars. They're reliable. Let's see how far you can go back. Even the 97s and 98s look nice. So let's get out of here. Like Acura. I may not even be pronouncing that one correctly. So I was going to go. We're going to try to wrap this up quickly. So if I was going to buy a luxury midsize like Hyundai, for instance, automatically I would have to go with the XG 350 from 2002. I don't like the looks of the 2004s and 2005s. I like the looks of the 2002. I just like the way the taillights, or not the taillight, but the headlight looks on a 2002 compared to 2004 and 5. And even the hubcaps look nice in the grill. I would definitely buy one. And you get all the fake imitation wood and stuff. So, leather seats. That's definitely be a nice luxury one. But note to self, if you buy one, it probably needs a transmission. And if I was going to buy one vehicle that I would like to have, but it's a major money pit, is a Jaguar S-Type from 2001. I just like the styling of the grille. So there's a guy in the area that had one. It was like I'd say the periwinkle blue or something. Very flashy looking, but they're notorious money pits for cars. I'm not joking. They are the vehicles that the retail value is not worth what they're asking for them. Because parts are expensive and you're going to replace parts on them constantly. So the only thing it'd be good for is a good weekend, like a Sunday car, and that would be about it. If you want one for a daily driver, forget it. But they are very nice looking, very elegant, swanky looking cars that don't actually have all the goofy navigation crap in them. So, and last but not least, we were going to look at Infinities. On your screen, you don't actually physically get to see, because I'm not rich enough to have capture screen software to make it even more exciting here. But there's so many different Infinity models I would actually buy, knowing that they're all money pits. But I currently have the Infinity i3. This is a secondary car. It is a money pit, but it hasn't nickel and dimed me this year yet. So, other than I did an oil change in spring. So, stuff to think about. I hope I was able to answer majority of the questions. This stream I dragged out 10 times longer than I thought it would, but when people have questions, you don't want to leave them dragging. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking through. If you did, or if didn't, that's fine as well. I don't think I'm going to be doing 2-hour streams regularly, but I wanted to get this all done in one segment, so that the next thing that I can move on to is something a lot shorter and less time involved. But I don't think we're going to be streaming anymore tonight. This is more than plenty. Like I said, hope you enjoyed. God bless everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy the weekend. It's coming up pretty quick, even though it's only Wednesday. But Thursday and Friday go by pretty fast. So take care.